6, 2021, there are already 2.87 million fully vaccinated Filipinos. However, this is just 2.7% of the population. Many are yet to receive their first dose since the Department of Health released a vaccine prioritization list. There is also an issue on the scarcity of vaccines, and with this, the overall vaccination process has remained slow. The World Health Organization has been studying whether herd immunity can help in fighting the COVID-19 virus. Herd immunity, also known as the population immunity, is defined as an indirect protection from an infectious disease when the population is immune or vaccinated against it. However, the World Health Organization says that it is unethical and problematic to expose one to a virus. On today's episode of Lifeline, we will talk more about the effects of getting fully vaccinated in ourselves, country, and in our future. I am Zarina Ancheta, your host for today. Come and join me together with our guests to discover new things about being fully vaccinated. This is Lifeline. We improve our lives by feeding our minds. It has been months since the launch of COVID-19 vaccination programs across the country. Majority of the country's population have been vaccinated, and some Filipinos would tweet their experience or share a picture of themselves. In effect, some people would be encouraged to get vaccinated from what they've seen online. To get to know more about the effects of getting fully vaccinated, along with me is our guest. She is a specialist on various infectious and tropical diseases. She is an internist with a subspecialty on infectious diseases and tropical medicine. She finished her fellowship training at St. Luke's Medical Center, Quezon City, and is currently a diplomate of the Philippine College of Physicians and a member of the Philippine Society for Microbiology and Infectious Disease Incorporated. Without further ado, let us welcome Dr. Jane Suaco. Good afternoon.
Good morning. Sorry. Good afternoon.
Good morning po.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Sarina. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for inviting me and having me here for today.
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and for being here with us today, Doc. We really appreciate it po. So, Doc, since there are Filipinos who got fully vaccinated already, can you share with us what can they expect after being fully vaccinated and its effects in our body?
All right. So first, to understand the effect of being fully vaccinated, it helps to first know how the vaccines itself help our body to fight infectious diseases. So immunity is the ability of our body to eliminate foreign materials such as COVID-19 virus, providing protection from infectious diseases. The COVID-19 vaccines fall under acquired immunity, and the process for it to work is that the vaccine contains weakened or inactive parts of a particular organism called an antigen, or it may even contain the blueprint itself that produces the antigens, and then it stimulates our immune system to produce the antibodies. So in a way, it imitates the actual infection but does not cause the disease. So sometimes this imitation infection, it can cause minor symptoms, but these are normal and expected as our body builds immunity. Now, once this imitation infection goes away, our body is left with a supply of memory cells. So these will remember how to fight the disease in the future. Although it would take few weeks or even months for the body to produce antibodies after vaccination. So this is why it is even possible for a person to get infected with a disease just before or after a vaccination. So when the time comes that an actual COVID-19 virus has successfully entered the body, a familiar antigens are detected. The pre-formed antibodies go into action quickly, and these memory cells produce more of the necessary antibodies to attack them to be able to control the infection quickly. Now, so what can we expect after being fully vaccinated? Well, we can still be infected with COVID-19 despite being fully vaccinated, but the chances are smaller than if we are not vaccinated at all. But since our body now has the memory cells, it will be able to attack the COVID-19 virus immediately upon entry. reducing the chances to develop serious and even critical disease that may lead to hospitalization, complications, and even death. And this is actually one of the goals of being vaccinated. It is not to develop the disease, but to prevent the progression to a severe disease that can bring death. This is also the reason why, despite being fully vaccinated, we still have to wear masks, wash our hands, and practice social distancing. Most especially since a lot are still yet to receive their first or second dose. As for the effects of it in our body, there may be minor short-term reactions like any vaccine, but these are mild and go away within a few days on their own. Like any drug, more serious or long-lasting side effects are possible, but these are extremely rare. So before receiving validation from WHO and national regulatory agencies, these vaccines underwent rigorous testing in clinical trials, and they have met internationally agreed benchmarks for safety and efficacy.
I think that's really some things that we need to impart to people so that they must remember that being vaccinated is important because it really lessens the severities that might happen. So, Doc, since there are people who are still waiting for their second dose and some do not want to get vaccinated at all, what do you think will be the effect of having a high percentage of the public being vaccinated, and what will happen to those people who really do not want to get vaccinated?
Okay, so as I have said earlier, being vaccinated is being protected from the disease and its complications, but not everyone can be vaccinated. Those with underlying health conditions that weaken their immune systems, those who take immunosuppressants, or those who have severe allergies to some vaccine components may not be able to get vaccinated with certain vaccines. These people can still be protected if they live in and amongst others who are vaccinated. So this is what we call herd immunity. When a sufficient number of persons in a community are vaccinated against a particular infection, the infecting pathogen will have a hard time circulating because most of the people it will encounter are immune. So the vaccinated person acts as a barrier to slow and prevent the virus from continuing to spread. So the more the others are vaccinated, the less likely people who are unable to be protected by vaccines become infected. So this is especially important for those people who cannot only be vaccinated, but also have risk factors that increase their susceptibility to the diseases we vaccinate against.
So, Doc, since you have mentioned herd immunity and it is something that we commonly hear nowadays, with our rate of being vaccinated, how long do you think the Philippines will achieve herd immunity?
Once a population reaches a point of collective immunity where the disease is no longer likely to spread, it reaches the herd immunity threshold. So without herd immunity, the virus could linger for decades in some form. The estimate for COVID-19 is roughly around 70 to 85% of the population. But although this will likely be a moving target because there are different stages of this pandemic as we see. So is it still attainable? Maybe yes, maybe no. Aside from the speed and scale of the immunization program, there are also factors to consider such as new variants, vaccine hesitancy, and even supply issues. But still, we should not give up and stop this for our vaccination program. Of the total population vaccinated, it is important to ensure that target vaccination for the most vulnerable, which are the senior citizens and people with comorbidities, is achieved. The constant parade of variants only underscores the importance of hitting this goal and getting as many people as many that we can vaccinate. Now, how about for those people who don't really want to get vaccinated? Well, they will have higher chances of becoming infected and developing the disease and its complications, especially if they have underlying comorbidities. So as I've mentioned earlier, it takes time for our body to naturally produce the antibodies necessary to fight off the infection. Without the memory cells and pre-formed antibodies at our immune system's disposal, the COVID-19 virus becomes an unrecognized antigen. So since it is unrecognized, the body is not trained to fight it, and the antibody response will be much slower than when you have been previously vaccinated. So you are lucky if you only develop mild or moderate, but and if your immune system is able to develop the necessary antibodies in time to prevent complications. But if you are one of those with underlying comorbidities or weakened immune system, then the chances of the infection progressing to becoming complicated before you are even able to develop antibodies are higher. Furthermore, it will be easier for the infecting pathogen to circulate in the community because of increased transmissibility and decreased immunity.
Thank you for that clarification, Doc Jane. It's actually important that people must hear this so that they would really understand and highlight the importance of getting vaccinated during this time, especially now that we are, trying to achieve herd immunity and people are really lining up and getting their schedules. Now po, the discussion of mix and match of COVID-19 vaccines has been slowly brought up several times. What are your thoughts about this, Doc? Can you share the implications of mixing and matching vaccinations?
Indeed, heterologous or mixing of primary series that involves using different vaccine formulations is of current interest. So it mitigates supply shortage. It also may improve immunogenicity and also to avoid some safety issues. In fact, there are some countries that have considered giving different mRNA vaccines for the first and second dose, or giving an mRNA vaccine as the second dose for those who initially received the viral vector vaccine. So there are now clinical trials ongoing in some countries that are looking into these. But complete results of such trials on safety, reactogenicity, and even immunogenicity in comparison with homologous or same vaccines in a primary series are still lacking. So the CDC may have allowed some countries to mix, if not within a study trial, but this is only under exceptional situations, such as limited supply. And since the science is still changing and evolving and the knowledge base is growing, until such time when enough robust data have been published, the current recommendation is still to have the second dose, the same as the vaccine you had in the first dose. We also wouldn't want to deny someone of their first or second dose just so we can have an unnecessary third or fourth dose of a different brand.
Now, Doc, there is a statement that people usually post as status on their social media accounts. Quote unquote, the best vaccine is the one that's available. Do you agree with this statement, Doc?
Yes, I agree with this statement. Indeed, the best vaccine is the one that's available, because the time that we spend waiting for that one vaccine that we like is also the time when we remain susceptible to the virus. And it may also be the only time that the virus needs for it to develop into full-blown disease, complete with its complications. Worse, it may be the time when we get to last see our loved ones. Sad, right? So to have died or to have caused your loved one to die just because of trying to wait for the best vaccine. Most COVID-19 hospitalizations and deaths are among those who are unvaccinated. This is exactly what we are trying to prevent by becoming vaccinated as soon as possible. And all COVID vaccines are safe and effective.
I agree, Doc. People usually base their decisions on the efficacy rate, but of course, it's not mainly or the sole basis in choosing the best vaccine for you. Of course, we have to consider that being vaccinated is very important, because at times like this, it is one thing that will help us become immune to the virus. Now, Doc, the World Health Organization said that it is unethical and scientifically problematic to expose one to a virus. Do you agree with this?
Yes, I agree that it is unethical to expose one to a virus. So this is why we have ethics committee which are governing all the clinical trials that are undergoing each vaccine studies. So it is necessary to balance the benefit and also the side effects or even the mortality that can happen when we try to give it to people, even though we do not yet have the full study regarding the vaccine.
Thank you so much, Doc, for your insights regarding this. Everything was clarified. We now understand it. I am sure that the Thamashian community learned from you as well, because you were able to highlight important parts that we cannot easily see on social media, because people nowadays easily believe what they see on social media. And having you, an expert, you were able to enlighten us with the proper information. Speaking of that, after this short break, we will be hearing from our fellow Themasians regarding their insights on being fully vaccinated. Stay tuned and we'll be right back. Some of our fellow Themasians got fully vaccinated already, and they prepared some questions and insights regarding getting 2 doses of vaccines. We would like to hear your answers regarding their questions on getting fully vaccinated. Our first question from a Themasian student is, what happens when we miss our second dose? Will there be any negative result or will there be any major effect on our body? Is it strictly to be followed po ba yung period ng pagitan ng doses?
Well, you are only partially protected if given 1 dose of a 2-dose vaccine. You may still be at risk of severe infection without the second dose. It's important to go back and get that second dose of a 2-dose vaccine because the first dose actually presents this new antigen to the immune system, so it primes it to develop the memory cells and the antibodies. And this second dose acts as a booster that allows more of the memory cells and the preformed antibodies to be produced to achieve the highest level of immunity possible. The second dose not only boosts our immunity, but it also provides longer lasting immunity. It's best to get your second dose as close to the recommended interval as possible because this recommended interval has been backed up by the clinical trials. But if a delay is unavoidable, missing this window doesn't mean you have missed your only chance of getting your second dose. It also doesn't mean that you need to start your vaccination plan over completely. You can still receive a missed second dose as soon as you can. So the DOH recommends within 6 months, but the CDC and manufacturers also have different recommendations. Manufacturers of Pfizer and Moderna claims up to 42 days and Sputnik up to 90 days. We don't know how effective a 2-dose vaccine is when delayed way beyond what is recommended because there isn't enough data on that yet. But getting your second dose is still recommended and would likely still be more beneficial as compared to only having 1 dose.
Thank you, Doc. Next question asked is it necessary to have our boosters after being fully vaccinated? Because there was a circulating picture on Twitter of an American citizen having her 15th shot of Pfizer vaccine. After her COVID-19 vaccines, she's now completing her boosters.
So boosters are supplementary doses given after a primary series have been completed. At present, the need for and the timing for COVID-19 booster doses has not yet been proven. Current studies on duration of COVID-19 immunity have shown that antibodies persist up to 8 months after an infection and up to 6 months after the second dose of an mRNA vaccine. Though prediction models raises the concern that even vaccines with high initial efficacy could decrease, actual longitudinal studies are yet to be published. Concerns for such boosters may have evolved from awareness and spread of COVID-19 variants. So latest studies and statistics, however, show that all of our current vaccines are effective even against these variants after completion of the 2 doses. Vaccinated patients may have become infected with the Delta variant, but data shows no severe or critical infection among them. So again, until such time when enough robust data have been published and given the efficacy and availability of COVID-19 vaccines, fully vaccinated individuals do not need a booster shot at this time.
Thank you for that clarification. They must take note of that po. Once again, thank you so much to our guest, Themasians, and of course to you, Doc Jane, for sharing with us your insights regarding the questions that we had. I am sure that our viewers are enlightened from what you have shared with us. As the Themasian community has given their questions, let us now listen how being fully vaccinated has given them hope for our future. With the Philippines named as one of the longest COVID-19 lockdown in the world, there were quite some life-changing realizations we Filipinos had. Let's hear it from 2 of our fellow Themasians.
First of all, I realized that although all of us need to be vaccinated, it is still a privilege kumbaga nga nababakunahan. I believe that it is because of the government's failed pandemic response kaya wala pa rin tayong herd immunity ngayon. Also, hindi ko akalain na once in my life, naging maswerte ako because I have a comorbidity which enabled me to receive the dose of vaccine at the early stages of vaccine rollout. Also, hindi ko hindi ko mapigilan na makita na sobrang prevalent pa rin talaga ng corruption with the vaccine supply. Hindi talaga may iwasan pa rin na umiral yung KKK na tinatawag na mauna yung mga kaibigan, kakilala at kapamilya because of the politicians and the people responsible for vaccine rollout.
So yes, there was quite a lot. I realized that being vaccinated is not just for me, but also for the people around me. It's not about my protection only, but others' protection too. I wanted people to feel safe around me just as how I wanted to feel safe around them. So after being fully vaccinated, I felt the urge to encourage other people to get their vaccines as well. So despite the controversies and rumors about vaccines, all we have to do is to believe and have faith because being vaccinated is a big step for us to fulfill the herd immunity that we always wanted.
To sum up my realization after being fully vaccinated, I felt like I was a soldier going into war. You know, like you putting on a bulletproof vest and a helmet for protection. I mean, you could still die, you could still get injured, but at least the chances are very, very slim. Because, you know, vaccines do not really prevent you from getting from the virus. You know, it's more like making it less severe, you know, like when you get sick, at least hindi siya maging severe, at least you know you won't die. So as a result, I am more confident going out of the house, contributing more for my family, contributing for more the economy and such, because in a way, I'm also inspiring others to get vaccinated because vaccines are a symbol of hope. And that is my realization.
The herd immunity has been brought up quite a lot of times now since we have been rolling out the COVID-19 vaccines. As students and as part of the youth, Filipinos have a lot of expectations once the country achieves the herd immunity.
So this pandemic brought me to a world full of worry and discovery. I was worried about what might happen tomorrow, the next few days, and the next few months. And when I'm feeling anxious, I pray and focus on the positive things. And it came to the point that I realized that maybe this pandemic is telling us something, that I felt like I could be more and we can be more. So this is when I started to explore how to bake, how to take care of plants, how to crochet, and how to be more health conscious among other things. I discovered parts of myself and became more hopeful of the world. I always look on the brighter side of things, and I just really feel grateful, not because of the pandemic, but because of the time we get to bond with our loved ones during this pandemic. Before, I spent hours traveling from home to UST and vice versa. But now, my travel time is now converted to family time. Well, it's the small things that matter and makes us smile. We just need to exclude ourselves from negativity and lean towards positivity.
Expectations ko, isa talaga ay gusto ko na bumalik sana yung face-to-face classes kasi sobrang hirap mag-aral na nakaharap ka lang sa laptop screen mo and it's really hard to grasp the lesson unlike na nakikita mo sinusulat sa blackboard yung mga solutions and sinusolve talaga ng teacher mo on the spot. Hindi ko alam, iba yung feeling nung nasa loob talaga ng classroom mag-aral and I believe na hindi conducive yung bahay for learning lalo na on a tertiary level. Isa pa, sobrang miss ko na yung mga friends ko. Ito talaga sa pag-aaral, hindi naman talaga yung mga panahon na nagle-lesson kayo yung masaya, kundi yung after, yung tipong kakain kayo sa labas with your friends after a stressful day, after exams week, gagala kayo, go Intramuros for example, or simpleng kain lang sa Tiger Wings or Kantunan. Ito yung talagang mga memories na tumatagal kahit na makagraduate ka na ng...
A lot of lives were taken. Our frontliners have been battling this virus, and the Filipinos are struggling on various problems on their own. This pandemic had given us a lot of lessons. Now, let's hear from these Damashans on how they would sum up their pandemic experience.
So it is a big adjustment for everyone, lalo na we really aren't prepared for a pandemic. everyone struggled and lost something that is important, like work, loved ones, motivation for school, and even our mental health. And to think na marami taong walang tahanan na matirhan, walang makain, and just barely keeping up with this pandemic. My family and I tried to help other people as much as we could. Nakita ko na people are really acting like a community wherein we help each other. Imagine nagkaroon ng community pantry, then sunod-sunod na nagkaroon sa ibang lugar. That bright idea really helped a lot. It amazes me and gives me hope na may pag-asa pa tayo. We learn to be kind and be more understanding sa kung anong pinagdadaanan ng bawat isa during this pandemic.
Question. To sum up my experience of the pandemic, I learned to be more self-aware, to be more independent, and as well as you know that you cannot be reliant on anyone anymore. No one is a wall, you know. I want to bring back an old saying that I learned from high school. No man is an island. You don't teach a man how to fish. You give them fish. And it also shows who are the intelligent ones and who are the ignorant ones. And the price of ignorance is very, very high. It can even cost you lives. I mean, like, every time I see these people not wearing masks, not wanting to take the vaccine. So, of course, that is why I decided to take the shot. Because when I go out of my house, I see these businesses, you know, all of them closing, ganyan, naghihirap kasi there's no customers. But at least, when you take the vaccine, you can go out, you can now help these businesses. And that is why, to sum up the whole pandemic experience to me, I also learned how to make sacrifices in order to protect my loved ones, to protect my friends, to protect everyone around me. And then, yung care ko for others, my empathy increased din. And it helps me basically unite everyone else, you know. I want to spread this message that everybody should be united. And dahil dun, makakabangon tayo sa country. I mean, like, we must never forget, South Korea, China, Japan, they handled really well from the COVID. Kasi all the people are united. You know, they had a realization that the only way to beat this thing is together. Philippines, kaya yan. I mean, like, we must never forget that we have all the vaccines here. Pfizer, Sputnik, Astra, Sinovac, Sinopharm. And I heard Johnson & Johnson pa nga is coming eh. Talaga, makakabangon tayo. Sana lang, lahat tayo united, self-aware, independent, as well as with the spirit of unity, we will get through this. And that is my realization during this whole pandemic. The people must stand firm with one another. We must put everything aside and do what's best for our country, do what's best for the majority.
We are still in the journey of getting everyone to be fully vaccinated. These past months have been a series of events and a roller coaster ride, as they say. But we should not lose hope and always trust the process. I hope that throughout these episodes of Lifeline, you have learned from our experts and more about our vaccines and the experiences of others. Always remember that #vaccines work. Once again, this has been Lifeline. I am Zarina Ancheta, helping you to improve our lives by feeding our minds. See you next time, Tigers!